Hey, what's up? My name is Joe Bragg, and today we're going to discuss my top 5 worker placement games and my top 5 Christian metal albums. Let's get it.
Five.
So my number 5 worker placement game is Holotype. Honestly, I think this game is super underrated. I don't see it talked about a lot, but I thoroughly enjoy it. You are paleontologists going out and getting fossils and essentially gathering dinosaurs in that way, right? And so you're moving your workers around. You have limited workers. You start off with 2, but then you can unlock a 3rd. And so you have the main paleontologist, you have a field worker, and then you also have a grad student, right, which you can unlock as you start to journal and dialogue these dinosaurs that you're finding. So you're going around, you're collecting different resources, getting different cards. It has this nice vibe that you're actually a paleontologist, right, and you're digging up these fossils, and then you're journaling off of the finds that you have. And what's really awesome is they have these global objectives, and kind of anyone can do it. You just have to pay some extra resources, right, in order to borrow someone else's material. So you might have 3 dinosaurs that I actually need to use to complete a global objective. I have 2, you have 3, so I spend some resources to get them. But in all honesty, I can have none, and I can just borrow off of your research and complete these global objectives. I actually really enjoy that. It creates a nice tension in the game. I think it's a lot of fun. But I just want to say that, like, every time I play this, I enjoy it. I have a great time. It's very like light to medium weight, depending. But I love the way it scales for player count, which is awesome, and it's just a lot of fun. And so this is Holotype, and it's by Brexworks Games, and I want to really encourage you to check it out. Again, if you're looking for a nice, easy to learn, fun to play, accessible game, and you like dinosaurs, check out Holotype. It is a fantastic worker placement game.
4.
My number 4 worker placement game is probably going to come at no surprise. It's probably on a lot of people's lists, but that's okay. I just think it's pretty fun, and that is Everdell. Everdell is kind of hit and miss for some people. Some people actually really don't enjoy it. I like it. It's a tight economy. The only thing I don't really enjoy about it is the first season. It can be hard to get things moving. But once the game picks up and you start collecting, gaining more resources, and you're able to do more things, I think it just unlocks a really awesome world there. I love the card play in the game where I can pay these resources, bring them into my tableau. I have a set limit of 15, which gives me an interesting choice, right? Like, I have interesting choices in the game. Which card do I want to play? There's combinations. There's ways to get cards for free. So if you have the mine, you can get the miner. If you have a farm, you can get the husband or the wife. I think they renamed that in a later edition, but it's a husband and a wife from where I'm sitting. And so as you're playing the game, things start to unlock and they start to open up. And I just think that that's really awesome. I think it's a very creative game. The art is phenomenal. It's really satisfying. And I love the giant tree. I think the giant tree is a really cool piece to have. But it's a fun game. It's one that my wife and I enjoy to play together. And also just a great game to introduce to people that maybe haven't played a lot of worker placement games. I think it's, like I said, outside of the first season where it can be a little frustrating to get things going, I think the game just plays really well. I think it's very well thought of, and I really enjoy the expansions. Again, I don't play them all. Spirecrest is probably my favorite of the expansions. I just really like the elements that it brings. But again, if you're looking for a little bit more of a strategic worker placement game, I would definitely recommend Everdell if you haven't gotten it to the table yet. And I also have the app on my phone. I don't play a lot of games digitally, but I was recently going to be on a plane, and I thought, man, I would like to do that. And so I made the purchase to the app, and I think the app works really well. It's nice. It takes a little getting used to. There's no question there. But again, Everdell definitely on the list for me as my top 4.
3.
So my number 3 worker placement game is Tenpenny Parks, published by Thunderworks Games. This game is phenomenal. I probably say that word phenomenal more than I should, but it really is a great game. You have really interesting decisions to make. You're going through the process and you're like, do I want to go to the bank and get some more money? Do I want to remove trees from my player board, which is a really cool mechanic. Everyone has these player boards and they start with with these little wooden trees, and you have to clear them out because this is a polyomino game where I'm going out and I'm trying to purchase carnival rides so that I can fill my player board with these rides, and there's certain placement rules, like I have to make sure that corners touch and you can't overlap with things. It's really nice, and if you have trees in the way, it can be really challenging. But again, the way I'm going through, I'm gaining the resources and the money and the ways to be able to purchase these rides and build them into my park. And there are so many neat strategic moves that have to happen in the game, and you have very limited workers. I believe you start with 3 workers, and then there is a way to get a 4th because there's these tracks that you're going up on, and these tracks per round are giving you more bonuses, and one of them is an extra worker, and naturally that's going to be sought after in a worker placement game. The more workers you have, the better, and so you're trying to get that 4th worker to the table to be able to gain that. But everyone has these personal objectives that they're seeking to complete as well, and it could be, even your objective could be to cut down the least amount of trees, and there's ways to grow your player board so you can add on to it and expand. Again, just a really fun game. It plays 2 to 4 players, and it doesn't take a ton of time to learn. Like I said, really great strategy in the game. You really do have to think a little bit, but it's not overwhelmingly complex, which I love, right? It's a game that it's going to cause me to think, and it's going to, because of the way people place things, like there's this cool little wooden cardboard carnival wheel there, like merry-go-round in the middle, and that changes, and it changes the cost of cards. And so like when you're placing your worker there, like that spot is taken, and so now, man, I really wanted that one particular ride, and it was going to be cheaper, but somebody next to me took it, and now I kind of have to change my strategy. And I just think it's a really fun game that provides a lot of unique decisions to make, and we just always have a blast when we play it. My son loves it, which is really cool too. My wife and I really enjoy the game, and it's one that we like to teach to people when they come over. So really fun. Again, check out 10 Penny Parks.
2,
My number 2 worker placement game is a bit heavier, and that is Anachrony, published by Mind Clash Games. Man, this game is fun. It's got a lot going on in it, and you can see behind me there, once the little things there, I have the cool exosuits, which makes it a lot better, man. It's quality of life thing. But you're basically on a planet that is getting ready to have this apocalyptic event, and you need to gather up all these resources and do scientific experiments and different things and get yourself off of the planet before it explodes. And so there's just a lot of different ways that you're trying to grow your lab so that you can complete certain science experiments and have certain things going on. There's a time travel element where you can actually borrow resources from your future self, but if you don't pay it back, it creates a time paradox, which messes up your player board. Everyone has these unique player abilities, which is really awesome, and you're just moving around this really immersive sci-fi theme. I feel like the game puts you in this place. It gives you the tension. As the game ramps up, the top of the board flips over, and it starts to represent that this world is now getting set to blow up, and that also changes the worker placement spaces. Now certain spots are removed from the game because they're blowing up, and you've got to try to just get yourself off of this planet. And what's neat is like the worker placement, it's kind of dictated by certain roles. So you have scientists, you have researchers, and just different things, and certain people can go to certain places, and then there's a wild that can kind of go anywhere. And so lots of really dynamic ways to use your workers and your resources. And again, everything's kind of tight. You're on this planet that's getting ready to blow up, so every move you make matters, and it's just it's a blast to play. It takes a little bit of time to learn, for sure, but once you have it and you get that rhythm, I think that just the way that things continue to move, you pick it up pretty quickly once you get and understand the symbology and understand how things kind of work. It'll play much better for you. And again, it's a game you might have to play 1 or 2 times to really understand what's going on, but it's a lot of fun. I like in the rule book, they have a really cool glossary that's going to help you look at what does this tile mean, and why do I want to use it. And so you're trying to get these different bonuses to make everything more powerful for you, so as you move, it matters more. Again, just Really neat dynamic, really cool, and the game looks fantastic, especially when you have these little exosuits. They're pretty rad, and so really enjoy Anachrony.
1,
So my number one worker placement game is the game that kind of really landed the plane for me, where I'm like, I really like worker placement games and would definitely pursue them more. And I had actually played Everdell before this one, but when I played it, I was like, wow, yeah, I really like this, and it also unlocked things for me with Garphill Games, and so that is Architects of the West Kingdom, published by Garphill Games. I love this game. It's so good. I think that you have so many great choices, but one of my favorite pieces about it is kind of how you get your workers back, right? Using the town's center, and you can go in and you pay coins, and you're able to gather workers up. But not only can you gather your workers up, you can gather other workers up, and you can place them onto your player mat. You're kind of holding them hostage, if you will, but then you can go over and place them into the jail, and then people have to like pay to get their guys out, and they can pay you to get their guys away from you, and there's just a lot of really cool back and forth, and I found it to be a really unique way to just kind of get around just a simple recall, right? And so you have a large pool of workers, but that starts to dwindle as the game goes, and people are taking your workers from you. They're collecting them on their mat, and you're like, man, do I want to pay the money? Like, if they bring him to the jail, they're going to collect money to do that, so maybe they're going to put him in the jail soon. I don't know. And you have to really balance these tension, and people can hold your workers hostage for the whole game if they wanted to. But you have that option to pay them if you want. But I really enjoy it. I think the card play in the game is really neat. The way that you're buying these apprentices and these buildings, and you're trying to go around and collect these resources to actually be able to build these buildings, and you can build this cathedral. And then you start to lose workers, because every time you build either the cathedral or one of your buildings, you have to place that worker on a special spot on the board, and things go through, and there's this black market that's in there, and so you can get more resources, but it's going to cost you. It can mess with your virtue, because you want to go up on the virtue track, and that's going to give you points. But if you've been using the black market, you go down in virtue. You can actually even go in and there's a tax. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like free parking, which is not a rule in Monopoly where people put money there, but it's kind of like that. The tax pile is building, and you can go and you can actually take all the money that is in there, and it's going to affect you from a negative perspective as you're going to start going down on the virtue track. And if you go down too low in the virtue track, you're not able to build anything on the cathedral, and there's just some really neat dynamics. I felt like they did a phenomenal job of this, and the art is great. It fits everything. Like I said, the card play's fun. Again, it's another one of those games. The resources aren't necessarily as tight here because everything compounds, and I like this too. If I place one worker, I might get 2 brick, but if I place another worker there, it's that one plus the other one, so it's going to get me more resources. Not every space is like that, but you'll have some of those spaces that are. But the more workers you're placing in a particular area, the more resources you're getting. So I guess they all do that, but there's some dynamics with like the brick and gold and that kind of stuff, but really neat. There's also a place where you can trade resources for other resources, and lots of ways to score points. It's a lot of fun. I really want to recommend Architects of the West Kingdom. It's my favorite of that series. I enjoy them all, but it's my favorite one. It's the one I think that's the most accessible. I can get to the table. I can teach it relatively quickly. People start to grasp it. We have a lot of fun with it, and so therefore it just kind of puts it into that other tier for me, where it's not overwhelmingly heavy, but it's also not super light, in that there are some great decisions that have to be made, and you really need to think through a lot of that. And so yeah, that's my top 5 worker placement games. So again, it's Holotype, Everdell, Tenpenny Parks, Anachrony, and Architects of the West Kingdom. But I have some honorable mentions. Let's almost make it a top 10, just not in any order. So honorable mentions would be Bivouac. That's published by Sly Game Design. It's a camp game, but you are actually designing like your own camp and retreat center. It's actually a lot of fun. I'm friends with the designers, but outside of that, the game itself is just actually really good, and I definitely enjoy it. It's on the lighter side, but lot of fun there. Apiary from Stonemaier. I really like the dynamic. I think Space Bees are a cool theme. I know some people go back and forth with that. I think it's awesome. Really enjoy it. And I've taught that game to a number of people, and it's just something that I think is just well done. I like the bee mechanic. Like Holotype, which I didn't mention, Apiary also has a bumping mechanic, and so Holotype has this as well. And so there's like in Holotype there is a hierarchy to how you can bump workers. Like your field worker can't bump the paleontologist, your grad student can't bump the paleontologist, but the paleontologist can bump all, and the grad student can bump the field worker, and so on. And so it's really nice. In Apiary, you can move bees and bump bees, including your own, and they come back, but they come back at a larger strength, or you can put them in this landing zone so you can start claiming resources. Really fun. I think Apiary is a great game. I thoroughly enjoy it and have had a lot of fun when I get it to the table. Another one would be Lost Ruins of Arnak. I really like the choices in that game. I really like the decisions. It's a very tight game. It's a game that takes some time to get used to. It takes some time to really figure out a great strategy, which I like. I like the fact that the first time I play it, I'm like, oh, I'd like to play that again because I want to learn more. And the more I play it, the more I learn and grow in it. I just think it's an all-around fun game. Let's see. Santa's Workshop is another one of my honorable mentions here. Again, I've talked about it in some episodes of the podcast, but Santa's Workshop is just a lot of fun for me. I really think it's thematically well done. I love the choices that need to be made here. I think that the resources can get tight, especially if you play at higher player counts. It's just a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with the theme, and it's just a game that we break out in Christmas season. And we even talked about, because of that game, we talked about, man, it'd be fun to do like a Christmas in July game day, right, where we themed out everything Christmas, and just had some fun and brought that game back out because it really only gets played during the holidays, but it is a great game. And my last one I'll use as an honorable mention is also an Elf Creek game. Santa's Workshop being an Elf Creek game is Honey Buzz. I really enjoy it. I know some people might think it's overhyped and some might think it's underhyped. I have no idea where people think about it, but I actually really like the game a lot. I like the beeline mechanic where if someone's already got a worker there, I can go there, but I got to place 2 bees. And if someone else wants to go there, they got to place 3, and so on. And I actually think that's neat. And I enjoy how that works. And I think it creates some really interesting tension. You might not always be able to do what you want. You're trying to make those things work. But I really like how you build out the honeycomb, how you're getting the nectar, and then able to take those different types of honeys that you've created and sell them on the market. Just a really fun game overall. And so that is my honorable mentions there in my worker placement. And now we're going to get into my top 5 Christian metal albums. I am a big fan of music, love music. I am kind of fine with any genre so long as the album is good. I'm not a huge country guy, but I will say that there is good country out there. But I wanted to specifically talk about my top 5 Christian metal albums. My go-to, man, if I'm looking for something really heavy, here's where I want to go. And I love discovering new bands, and there's a ton of that out there, but these are the ones for me that I'm just like, I really want to listen to something heavy. I'm going to jam out right now, and this is where I go. So number 5 is The Life and Death of a Plea for Purging by A Plea for Purging. I was a big Meshuggah fan prior to coming to Christ, and A Plea for Purging really scratched that itch for me. They're no longer together, which is a bummer, but this album and their earlier albums, but this album in particular is phenomenal. Super great progressive rhythms, love it. It's chunky and just it's a really fire album. Number 4 would be Descendants Redux, Fit for a King. I don't necessarily get into a lot of their newer stuff. Some of it's good, but this Descendants album is just so good to me. Really, really enjoy it. I just think it's fire. It's got some just dope drops, a lot of fun, and just it's heavy through and through. Just, I don't know. I just really dig the album. My third is a band that was relatively recent to me, and I actually got a little frustrated that my Christian metal friends didn't let me know about this band. This album is awesome, and it's called Out of the Eater, Something to Eat by Beard the Lion. This is more in the like melodic metal area in some regards, like vocally, but it's got like a lot of really awesome dynamics. Some might just put it into a harder rock category, but I think it's just kind of a tier up from harder rock. But I think it has some really heavy moments. But man, they are so dynamic, and I absolutely love it. I think that the way they can just fluctuate through different sounds, they just have some really awesome elements, some unexpected things that pop up. And I've just really, really enjoyed the band. I know they're working on new material. And so this Out of the Eater Something to Eat is actually like an EP, but it is great. I really want to recommend that. What I love about it too is that they are unashamedly following Jesus. Like, it's just very in the forefront in their music, and I love that. And it's so good. It's very dynamic, lots of fun, and I want to encourage you to listen. This next one was actually hard for me. I went back and forth between a couple albums by this band, but I landed on this one, and I went with The Hollow by Memphis May Fire. Again, another really dynamic album. It's a lot of fun. I love the vocals. I just think that it's such a great mix of singing and screaming, and it's all in the right places, and just how these things drop. Like, Matty Mullins he's a fire vocalist, and so I definitely want to encourage you, if you haven't listened to Memphis May Fire and you like harder music, definitely look at them. But The Hollow is a great album. I think it's a very well written, very well produced album through and through. It knows what it is, and it stays there, and it's just a fantastic listen. It's one of those albums I'll press play, and that's it. I'm just gonna run with that, and I love it. I can listen to it all the way through. So my number one album was when I first came to Christ, and I got to a place where I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to stop listening to these other bands. That took a while to get there. And I was like, Lord, please, like, you got to replace this. Like, I love music, and I was missing that he was the replacement, right? Like, Jesus is the replacement. But he was gracious enough to start showing me some really cool Christian metal bands that would start popping out. And this is one of those bands that I heard and was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm longing for here. And that was Children of Fire by Oh Sleeper. This album is bonkers, man. It starts right out the gate. Just End Seekers is just boom, and it hits with this snare drop, and then just this nice rhythmic guitar, and man, unique vocals. Very great in the melodic sphere. The way this dude like screams is so unique and spastic at times. Very emotional, just high energy, but they play with so many different dynamics. The album ebbs and flows, and I love that. And so again, this is another album I press play and I just listen all the way through, and just love every second of it. And so Children of Fire by Oh Sleeper is hands down my number one album. Like, it's not even close. Like, I love these other albums, but this album itself is hands down my favorite and a go-to often. So much fun. That album it hits on every cylinder, and like I said, it's very dynamic, very different. It ebbs and flows. It's very spastic, but it's got some of the dopest drops, and yeah, it's so good. So check out Children of Fire, Oh Sleeper. I do have a couple honorable mentions on here as well. They were tough not to put into this top 5, but they really just kind of fell below. And that is Bloodwork by Texas in July. Whew. That album hits. That album is heavy. That album is worth listening to. And also Metanoia by For All Eternity. That album's dynamic as well, more in the nu metal type vibe. Really enjoy it. It's very melodic. It's got some beautiful moments, but it's a band that knows where they are, knows who they are, and has a really unique sound. So I would definitely check out Metanoia by For All Eternity. Hey, thanks a lot for rocking this with me on this top 5 list, and I hope that you found it enjoyable. I'm excited to do more content, so if you have not already, please like and subscribe to this channel. We're going to do more top 5s, but also going to be doing some more faith-based content, and going to be beginning a segment where I'm going to be interviewing some Christian designers, and that segment is going to be called By Design. And I'm very excited to sit down with some people and just chat about their game design process, how God is using it, and how God is working through them to use board gaming to reach people. So really pumped about what's ahead. So thanks for taking the time. Hope you enjoyed it, and God bless. Peace.